quantity. 1. Argent. Argent Skinner could not keep the right half of his face. He had desperately wanted to. He had watched through the Unis machine little window as Nelson was unwound. He found himself unmoved by the man's screams and found he had no pity whatsoever for Nelson. Argent wondered if that made him a bad person. Well, who cares? He saved Connor Lassiter, who has since been rewound and is kicking ass in Washington. That made Argent a hero, even if no one ever knew. And every hero should be allowed to enjoy at least one moment of revenge. The plane was already in the air by the time Unis was done with Nelson, but Argent had realized his dilemma. If Argent brought the biostasis container holding the right half of his face to Devon, Devon would know what he had done. Devon Umarov, king of the Western world's organ black market, believed Argent to be too dim-witted to even conceive of something so brash. It was a perception that worked in Argent's favor, allowing him to get away with many things, such as relabeling all of Connor's crates. Little did Devon know that the parts his buyers paid millions for weren't Connor's parts at all. They belonged to some random AWOL whose name Argent couldn't remember. If Devon knew what Argent had done to Nelson, Argent would become an unknown quantity in Devon's eyes. That would be a problem. Devon had allies and enemies. Anyone who fell somewhere in between could end up dead. Ever since the day that Risa escaped with most of Devon's unwinds, the man has been ordering the death of anyone he had questions about. So Argent denied himself the ultimate victory and sat back as all of Jasper T. Nelson was sold off piece by piece to greedy buyers. Devon never even knew that Lot 4833 wasn't one of his AWOLs. That was months ago. Now, Argent bides his time, serving as Devon's valet to the best of his ability, waiting for the day the man keeps his promise to Argent and allows him to choose a new face, a whole one, to replace the scarred half of his own, and the bio bandage that covers his right half like a mask. Argent has no doubt that his employer will keep his promise. Devon Umarov is many things, some of them unthinkable, but Argent knows that above all else, Devon is a man of his word. 2. Devon. Business could not be better. With the United States government caving to the conscience of its people, leading to the temporary halting of all unwinding, the call for parts worldwide has been great. Prices have tripled, and Devon finds he cannot keep up with the demand. If the ban on unwinding becomes permanent and spreads to other nations, he and the Burmese Daze will be the sole sources of quality parts. And since the Daze does not deal in brain tissue, he will have a distinct advantage. The Daze knows this and wants him taken out of the play more than ever. For this reason, Devon has been forced to purge his ranks of anyone he does not trust and to keep himself at a level of paranoia that, considering this circumstance, could save his life. Today, Devon watches a news clip over and over in the valued great room of Lady Lucrezia. and Antonovo AN-255, the largest aircraft ever built. All the comforts of home at 37,000 feet. His valet comes in with a carafe of coffee. Skinner, Devon says, pointing at the news clip. Have you seen this? On screen is a talk show. Featured guests are none other than Connor Lassiter and Risa Ward. Devon notes the way Skinner's hands shake when he sees it. The coffee cup on the platter clatters like teeth on a cold night. The reason is obvious. Skinner knows that any business involving the Akron AWOL and Risa Ward usually sends Devon into a rage. He's probably waiting for it, but today, Devon has no reason to lose his temper. This was broadcast live earlier this morning, Devon explains. Watch what happens next. Just as the host is about to start the interview, shots ring out, and The host's chest practically explodes, and the camera skews wildly. More shots. Risa and Connor can be seen hurried backstage by security guards to the gasps and screams of the studio audience. Skinner drops the carafe and immediately goes down to clean it, apologizing profusely. It is of little concern to Devon. Skinner will clean it up and get more coffee. In spite of his occasional clumsiness, he is an excellent valet. It appears that Risa and the imposter were unharmed, Devon says, but I doubt they'll be doing any more interviews. Were you involved? Skinner asks. Devon actually laughs at the suggestion. Certainly not. I hold no grudge against Risa just because she escaped. As for the imposter, he's not worth my time, and his actions have mostly been good for business. Yes, sir, I suppose they have. When Connor Lassiter returned to the public spotlight, it was obvious to Devon that he must be an imposter. Devon had gone down to witness the young man's unwinding, so there could be no foul-ups. His parts were sold and shipped out. And although the Swiss banker who purchased Connor's face claims he was duped and the face was someone else's, Devon knew the truth. The banker must have sold it to the American Anti-Divisional Resistance. They probably got his vocal cords too. That's all they needed to rewind themselves an imposter who looks and sounds like Connor Lassiter. As for the shark tattoo, that's easy enough to fake. The world might be fooled, but not Devon Umarov. At their next stop, a secluded airfield in Canada, the Lady Lucrezia lands in a downpour. There will be guests today, guests that Devon must reluctantly allow on his flying fortress. Once a year, he meets with his sister to discuss the family business. She complains and tries to persuade him to cut costs and increase output. He refuses, citing the fact that quality is the hallmark of his product. She leaves miffed. He flies off miffed. And that's that until next year. Such is the lot when you cast your fortunes in with family. You will treat her with the respect which you treat me, Devon tells his staff, whether she deserves it or not. Although he addresses everyone, most of the others have heard this before. It's mainly for the benefit of Argent, who has not experienced Devon's family. Devon watches from a window in the expansive living room. Several figures approach from a large limousine, and he wonders who accompanies her today. Her spineless waif of a husband, her lawyer. The heavy rain necessitates umbrellas and hooded raincoats. Because of this, Devon doesn't get a clear picture of all of his guests as they board the plane. Had he seen, he would never have opened the hatch. 3. Argent. Argent is curious. Argent is fearful. But most of all, Argent is annoyed that he will now be expected to anticipate the needs of many instead of just Devon. Devon maintains a skeleton crew. The pilots, his bodyguard, a chef, and Argent. He calls Argent a valet, but really what he is a housekeeper and waiter rolled in one. Every task that isn't specifically assigned to someone else is left to Argent. He works long hours for little money and even less praise, and yet in spite of it, he's come to appreciate the routine and even Devon himself. It sure beats being a supermarket cashier. Devon relies on him. Back home, Gracie had relied on him, but that had been different. He resented having to care for his low-cortial sister. But for some reason, he doesn't resent working for Devon. He has no idea where Gracie is now, whether she's alive or Nelson killed her. Connor swore up and down she was alive the last time he saw her, but Argent can't know for sure. He tries not to think about her. She's the one who abandoned him. Whatever bed she made herself. The hatch folds open into a short set of stairs to the tarmac. The Lady Lucrezia is so large, its belly comes within 4 feet of the ground. Servants with umbrellas hurry a group of people from a limousine to the plane. The storm had picked up. They probably won't be able to take off until it eases. Not good for Devon's mood. He hates being grounded. The first to enter is a woman. She wears no raincoat. Instead, she's covered head to toe in a massive fur coat made from an animal that's probably extinct. Her coat alone may have taken out the entire species. This clearly must be Dagmara, Devon's sister. Where is he? She demands. Why is he not here to greet us? She exchanges a few snappish words in check-in with Bola, Devon's bodyguard. Next to enter is a boy of about 16, Devon's nephew, Malik. He's good looking in that prom king kind of way that would make Argent want to slash his tires if he were back home. He takes one look at Argent and says, "Who the hell are you? What's wrong with your face?" Dagmara answers, "This is Skinner, don't you remember? I told you. He sold half his face to a parts pirate for drugs, and your soft-headed uncle took him in." Argent seethes, but knows he can't show it. Her version is so far from the truth, he wants to scream. "Is that what he told you?" Dagmara shrugs. "No, but I can read between the lines." He's about to lead them up when a final figure comes in, cloaked in a rain hood. He removes it to reveal that he's Asian, with a dark complexion. It doesn't take a genius to guess that he's Burmese. Bula, the bodyguard, reaches for his weapon, but Dagmara comes between them. "He is our guest, and here by my invitation," Dagmara says. "You bring Daze scum on Lady Lucrezia." Bula doesn't let go of his weapon, but doesn't remove it from the holster either. "I am unarmed," says the Burmese man. "I'm not here to cause trouble, but to end it." Bula considers this and turns to Argent. "Close the hatch." Then he grabs the Burmese man by the arm. "You have special place to wait until Mr. Umarov decides what to make of you." Although Argent knows it's just Bula's poor English, it's fitting, because Devon has made things of the 4 Daze assassins sent to kill him. Argent wonders if a bonsai life is what is in store for this man as well. The champagne and trays of canapes that Argent serves seems a nicety that's out of place in the shouting match that ensues the moment Devon finds out there's a Daze agent on board. He doesn't need to understand check-in to know what it's about, and the storm inside seems amplified by the storm outside as the massive jet fights to climb above the turbulence. The adults are too heated to eat or drink. It's Malik who downs the champagne and hors d'oeuvres. "Bring more," Malik orders. Argent gets some more finger foods from the chef, but decides giving the kid more champagne won't do anyone any good. Finally, the tension settles. The turbulence becomes an occasional tremor, and Devon asks Argent to bring out snacks, most of which Malik has already eaten. Whatever understanding was reached, it did not involve ejecting the Burmese guy out of the Sayonara hatch, a special airlock Devon had installed for the flushing of undesirables. "I've never had an occasion to use it," Devon once told Argent, "but it's a comfort to know that it's there." With the Burmese interloper still locked away and guarded by Bula, Devon and his family settle in to the small talk that should have started that day. Apparently, Chechen is their language of anger because now they speak English. Argent mixes their drinks and fetches food from the gallery, all while listening. A proverbial fly on the wall. Dagmara's older son is off in college. To her embarrassment, he's majoring in philosophy and has shunned the family business entirely. She and her good-for-nothing husband have separated, and he wants the family's Swiss chalet in the divorce. Malik has been expelled from yet another prep school due to bad behavior. "It's not my fault," Malik whines. "They all suck." Usually a kid like Malik could skate by on his good looks, so Argent figures he must be a real screw-up. And then Dagmara asks, "What's behind the curtain?" Devon smiles as if he's been waiting for the question. "Something I acquired since your last time on board," he tells her. "A work of art that also happens to be a musical instrument." That piques everyone's curiosity. "Skinner, show them." And so Argent pulls back the curtain to reveal the Orgaya Organico, 88 faces loom above its keyboard. Dagmara gasps. Is that an organ? Of a kind, Devon says. A heavenly chorus awaits a conductor. Dagmara approaches it, not horrified as Risa was, but entranced. May I? Be my guest, Devon says. She sits at the keyboard and begins to play. In all the time the Argent has been on board, he's never heard the Orgao Organico played, except for the time Richa touched one key and a single voice sang. Dagmara launches right into a dark, powerful piece that is familiar even to Argent, whose grasp of classical music is about the same as his grasp of particle physics. Toccata and Fugue in D minor, says Devon, an excellent choice. The Lady Lucrezia is filled with eerie strains of the fugue voiced by the unwound chorus, mouths opening and closing to Dagmara's touch of keys. As it builds to a crescendo, Argent concludes that it must be the most disturbing thing he has ever witnessed. Even Devon seems to be taken aback. And Malik says, "Cool. Play as much as you like," Devon tells his sister. "It was purchased with you in mind." 4. Devon. Against his sister's complaints, Devon holds the Daze scum in a cell for most of the day. They both need to know who's calling the shots here. This is Devon's plane, his operation, and if he deigns to speak with the man, it will be on Devon's terms, and no one else's. He chooses to release the man for dinner. I will feed him and listen to what he has to say, and then put him off the plane at our next stop, he tells Dagmara. That is not acceptable, Dagmara says. I couldn't care less what you think is and is not acceptable. He wonders if all siblings are like them, or if this is a unique in his family, or perhaps it's an ailment of the wealthy. The more money a family has, the more its members despise one another, especially when control of that money comes into play. When Bula arrives with the Burmese man, the man does not appear disgruntled by his treatment. In fact, he appears downright jovial, which Devon finds irritating. Dagmara, the mastermind of this questionable summit, does the introductions. Devon, I would like to present you to the Honorable Mr. Santhi, representative of the Burmese Daze. Mr. Santhi, my brother, Devon Umarov. A pleasure, Mr. Santhi says. Devon says nothing. He just offers his hand to shake, with a calculated shift of position at the last instant, making Santhi's grip awkward. It's Devon's way of setting an adversary off balance from the onset. There's a dining table in the plane's great room, set for 5. Skinner serves with the unobstructive formality that Devon has painstakingly taught him. I have a valet back at my harvest camp, Mr. Santhi says, but he's all thumbs. And then he laughs at a joke that only he seems to understand. Dagmara slips right into talk of her marital woes, and Malik finds fault in everything. Devon has no patience for any of it. Then, when Skinner serves the main course, Malik turns to Devon in practiced disgust. Does he have to be here? Looking at him makes me lose my appetite. Would you prefer to serve yourself? Devon asks. I would prefer you hire someone with a face. Malik, you must learn to be more tolerant, Dagmara chides. This is the very type of thing that keeps getting you expelled from school. Do you want to tell your uncle why you were thrown out of Excelsior Academy? Malik grabs a roll and rips off a piece with his teeth. I unwound my math teacher's chihuahua. Santhi laughs. Well, it was a nuisance yapping all the time, Malik says. The guy had no business for bringing a yappy dog on campus. And then comes a voice from behind that no one is expecting to hear. You didn't unwind it. You killed it, says Skinner, suddenly no longer unobstructive, but the center of everyone's attention. Excuse me, says Dagmara, seething with indignation. Did you really just say that to me, says Malik. Dagmara turns to Devon. Is this how you train your valet? To talk back to your guests? Devon sighs. He needs no more drama at the table. Apologize to my nephew, Skinner. Skinner just stands there, refusing to look at anyone. I said apologize, Devon says more forcefully. I'm sorry, Skinner finally says. And to keep this from escalating any further, Devon decides to remove Skinner from the situation. You're excused. Bula will serve the rest of the meal. Bula steps out of the shadows to take over, and Skinner disappears towards his quarters at the rear of the plane. There should be consequences, Dagmara says. Devon agrees, but not with who those consequences should be for. The meal continues in an uneasy silence. Malik leaves. Malik leaves after dessert without anything as much as a goodbye, and once he is gone, Devon gets down to business. Mr. Santhi, toward what end have you intruded on this time with my family? There's an uncomfortable pause. It's Dagmara who answers. He has a proposal from the Daze. I think you should hear it. Devon takes his time rimming his espresso with lemon rind. I'm listening. Santhi leans forward. This war between us helps no one, he begins. It is our hope that we can pool our resources and make a greater profit for all of us. Devon knows exactly where this is going. You want Unis. It's no secret that your machine can perform an unwinding in only 15 minutes. With this technology, we could downsize our harvest camps while increasing our output. In return, we are prepared to offer you a generous percentage of our profits. In other words, you propose to buy me out. Think about it, Devon, says Dagmara. No more attacks from the Daze. No need to fear for your life, and more money than we're pulling in now. Devon takes a sip of his espresso. I will not surrender my business to an organization as bloody and barbarous as the Burmese Daze. Not now, not ever. Then Dagmara finally shows her hand. You forget, dear brother, that I control your ground operations. Without my distribution network, you can't move a single unwound part. Are you threatening me, Dagmara? I'm merely trying to get you to see reason. Devon turns to Santhi, his decision made. But in truth, it was made even before they began speaking. When we land in Kamchatka, you will be put off my plane, Mr. Santhi. I trust you'll be able to find your way home from there. Then Devon excuses himself, not wanting to be in either of their company for a moment longer. 5. Argent. There's not much room in his tiny cabin to pace, but Argent can't keep still. Devon has entertained the likes of parts pirates and contract killers, but none have gotten under his skin the way Malik has. Perhaps because those others do what they do for money, not for pleasure. As Devon always says, it's strictly business, and no matter how illicit the business is, the joy comes more from the profit than from the act. Surely the black market is rotten with sociopaths, but Malik feels like a special case. And Devon made Argent apologize. There's little enough self-respect left in Argent, and that just about killed it. There's a knock at his door. He suspects it's Devon come to lecture him on his place in the scheme of things, but it's not. It's Malik, the beast himself, come to pay a visit. Nice closet, he says. Can I come in? Argent knows if he denies him entry, he'll get in even more trouble. I already apologize, Argent says. What else do you want from me? I want to give you the chance to make it up to me. Malik steps in, and Argent has no choice but to let him. Things will be changing around here. You can either be a part of the change or be steamrolled by it. Nothing's changing unless Mr. Umarov says it is, Argent tells him. Malik doesn't speak to that. Instead, he says, Show me my uncle's harvester. Argent wasn't expecting that. I'm not allowed. But you can get in, can't you? I want to see Unis. I want to see how it works. I told you, I can't. And then Malik reaches up and grips the bio-bandage that covers Argent's faceless half. I could rip this off of you right now. It's a terrifying threat, because a bio-bandage is more than just dressing. It grows into the surrounding tissue to protect the wound. If he rips it off, the pain will be unbearable. Argent still remembers his martial arts moves. He could have Malik in a chokehold in an instant, cutting off his oxygen and rendering him unconscious. If he holds it long enough, Malik could be left with irreversible brain damage, which might be exactly what he needs. But who is Argent kidding? He'll just get rewound brain bits to replace the damage. On the other hand, perhaps those brain bits will be better than the ones Malik came with. Argent never gets the chance to find out because Dagmara comes to the door. Am I interrupting? She asks. Malik takes his hand from Argent's bandage. Just having a friendly chat, Malik says, and saunters off, leaving his mother to talk business. I have a proposal for you, Skinner, Dagmara says. Listen carefully, because I'm about to make you very rich. The instant Dagmara leaves, Argent goes to Devon's quarters, making sure that no one sees him. He knocks urgently, and Devon lets him in. I take it that this is important, or you wouldn't be disturbing me. Very important, sir. Then Argent shows him the vial that Dagmara gave him. She said she'd give me $1 million if I pour this into your espresso at breakfast tomorrow morning. Devon doesn't seem surprised, just disappointed. You realize she wouldn't have given you a dime. Most likely she'd kill you. Most likely she'd have Malik kill me, Argent says. Devon doesn't disagree. Devon opens the vial and sniffs it, thinks for a moment, then replaces the stopper and hands the vial back to Argent. Do it, Devon says. You want me to poison you? Certainly not, but I have no qualms about you putting it in someone else's espresso. Whoever you like. I trust your judgment. The idea that Devon trusts him with anything, especially something as serious as this, is a surprise to Argent. You're asking me to be your assassin. The Eastern world calls such assassins ninjas. Many of them serve as personal aides to their master. Is this a position you can rise to, Argent? It's the first time he can remember Devon calling him Argent instead of Skinner. Yes, I can, says Argent, and you don't need to give me $1 million either. Perhaps I will, Devon tells him, then adds, in time. 6. Malik. Malik has to admit the plane is as amazing as he thought it would be, and his own prospects are even more thrilling. His brother, the philosopher, wants no part of the family business. That leaves Malik first in line to inherit it all. His mother knows Malik is the strongest link in the family chain, which is why she's brokered this deal with the Daze. If we play our cards right, you'll be running the Daze one day, she told him. Merging with them isn't a matter of surrendering, it's infiltrating. And these Burmese fools are too stupid to see it. In the meantime, however, he'll settle for the Lady Lucrezia and its airborne harvest camp. But when he's in charge, things will be different. For one thing, he'll have a proper staff, and his first order of business will be to jettison the half-faced freak right out the sayonara hatch into oblivion. Such are Malik's musings when his uncle pays him a visit. Skinner tells me you have an interest in seeing Unis in action, Uncle Devon tells him. Malik is cautious. He told you that? Yes, he doesn't have access, so he asked if I could do it. I'd be happy to. Malik sits up, unable to hide his excitement. Thanks, Uncle Devon. Don't mention it. But before we go into the harvest drum, you'll need to put these on. He tosses Malik a one-piece garment that looks like long underwear, only heavier. As Malik examines it, he sees that it's made of metal, a very finely woven chainmail. What for? For your own protection, of course. Malik quickly dons the metallic one-piece and follows his uncle to the front of the jet, where the automated harvesting unit awaits. Can I watch an unwinding? Of course, says his uncle cheerily. I think you'll find it an eye-opening experience. 7. Devon. The Lady Lucrezia lands in Kamchatka at dawn. Several hundred stasis containers are unloaded, the result of 12 unwindings that took place in flight. There's only one small container that was not put up for auction. This box Divan takes to his personal quarters for safekeeping. Although new AWOLs have been brought to the Lady Lucrezia from his Russian holding facility, enough to fill all the empty beds in the harvest drum, Divan takes none of them on board. Next time, he tells his confused supply crew, pay the parts pirates what we owe them. And next time, I'll take them on board. As for Santi, Divan does not put him off the plane. He tells his sister he's had a change of heart and wants more time to consider their proposal. The Lady Lucrezia is refueled and airborne again in a half an hour. But shortly after reaching cruising altitude, Divan noticed several things that could only be called red flags. His chef will not look him in the eye. Bula is mysteriously missing, and the portside windows bring in a spectacular sunrise, which means they're heading on a southerly course instead of due west, as Divan's traditional flight plan. He doesn't need a compass to know that they're heading for Burma and that these pilots are now working for the Daze. All these things he keeps to himself at breakfast, playing his own hand very close to the vest. Even Skinner has a poker face this morning, although he does give Divan a surreptitious nod to indicate that they are in league. Malik is late for breakfast. No one is concerned. You should send Skinner to get him, Dagmara tells Divan. Eggs Benedict is his favorite. I'm sure he'll be along shortly, Divan assures her. It's as Skinner brings the morning espresso that Divan turns to Santi. Now, let us discuss the terms of your proposal. Both Dagmara and Santi watch with interest as Divan takes his time squeezing his lemon rind around the edge of his espresso cup. The terms, Santi says, have already been negotiated. There's nothing left but you to accept them. Santi takes a sip of his espresso. Dagmara takes a sip of hers. In that case, there's nothing more to discuss, is there? Divan says, and brings his own espresso to his lips. 8. Argent. He pours juice. He takes away plates. He watches and listens, all the while his heart pounding so painfully in his chest. He fears it may explode. Did he confuse the cups? He doesn't trust his own memory. What a time to be uncertain. Divan has taken a sip. All three have. How strong is the poison? How much of it must be ingested? And how long does it take to work? What sort of ninja is this clueless about his own methods? He doesn't need to wait long for an answer. Santi begins to gag and froth at the mouth and falls face forward. His head smacks the table with a thud. His eyes remain open. He's dead. Dagmara gasps, then throws an accusing glare at Argent. You imbecile! What have you done? Precisely what I expected he would do, Divan says. Well played, Skinner. Do you have any idea what the Daze will do when they find out he's dead? That, says Divan, is no longer your concern. Then he pulls out a gun and fires. It's a trank. It hits Dagmara squarely in the chest. She mumbles something in Chechen, most likely a curse, and her head rolls back instead of forward. I searched everywhere for Bula, Argent tells Divan once Dagmara is unconscious. He is not on board anymore. They must have killed him when we landed. Or sent him out the sayonara hatch, Divan shakes his head. Poor Bula, he deserves better. What do you want me to do now, Argent asks. You would do anything I asked, wouldn't you, Argent? Such loyalty is a rare commodity in this world. Would he do anything for Divan? Argent wonders. This man who cut off the good half of his face and gave it to Nelson, then turned him into an indentured servant in order to earn the right to have his face back, or have a face again. Argent finds that his answer is yes. He would do anything for Divan, anything Divan wished of him. Argent wonders if that makes him broken or noble. Divan leans back, as if he has no cares in the world. Go tell the chef we'll all be having lamb for lunch. That will keep him busy for a while. And while you're at it, please bring me another espresso. 9. Dagmara. She awakens to find herself staring at a sea of soulless faces. For a moment, she thinks it's a dream until she realizes where she is. She is sitting before the Orgao Organico. Her head is still a bit hazy, but she remembers what happened. To the left, a single male face has its mouth open, intoning a deep bass, She sees a single finger depressing the lowest B-flat key and follows that finger to her brother, who sits beside her. Stop that, she says warily, because the sound resonates in her aching head. I'm afraid that would be a mistake, Devon says, then removes his finger. Immediately, Dagmara can feel the plane beginning to lose altitude. Devon puts his finger on the key once more. The voice strings again. The plane stops dropping. You see, when I installed the organ, I made sure it was wired into the autopilot circuit, on the chance that this day might come. A mere flick of a switch has sent the control here. Now, as long as the Orgao Organico is being played, the autopilot is engaged. Autopilot, mumbles Dagmara, still struggling to get her wits back as the trank wears off. Yes, I'm afraid I had to kill both the pilot and his co-pilot. They proved themselves to be traitors. The chef as well. Pity. I doubt I'll ever find one with such talent. Dagmara groans. What a mess things have become. Leave it to her brother to bite everyone, including himself. And then something occurs to her that brings on a wave of nausea. Malik! Where's Malik? Where's my son? No longer on board, mostly. He was put off in Kamchatka. You left him alone? No, of course not. He's in the company of your distribution network. You'll be pleased to know that his parts fetched us more than $300,000. Dagmara gapes at him. He's joking. He must be. He wouldn't unwind his own nephew. What sort of monster would do such a thing? While I would love to continue this chat, Dagmara, I'm afraid we're out of time, Devon says. We've just crossed into Chinese airspace at an altitude of 2,300 meters. We're no longer heading towards Burma, but west. Of course, at this low of an altitude, it will be a bumpy ride once you reach the Chinese mountain ranges, but not to worry. The autopilot will steer you clear of the higher peaks. Dagmara struggles to grasp the things Devon is telling her. Chinese mountains, 2,300 meters, autopilot, and Malik. None of it seems real to her. It's all a hallucination brought on by the tranks. Please let it be so. Please let it be so. I'll be leaving you now, dear sister. Saying sayonara, as it were. You see, there are 2 parachutes on board, one for me and one for my valet. Wait, you're just going to leave me here? I leave you with my prized possession, the Orgao Organico. As long as you keep playing, the plane will fly true, at least until it runs out of gas. But her tanks aren't massive. We've got at least 20 hours left. Maybe more. Then Devon removes his finger from the key. The face stops wailing, closes its mouth, and the plane begins to drop. Better play, Dagmara. In a panic, Dagmara looks at the keyboard and quickly launches into her go-to piece that she had when she first arrived. Bach's Toccata and Fugue in D minor. The choruses of disembodied voices fills the space. Very good, says Devon as he strides away. Keep playing, Dagmara, keep playing. Devon, she calls. Devon! But he's gone, and so she plays for her life, buying herself the seconds and the minutes and the hours until there's nothing but soulless voices and fumes. 10. Argent. Being ejected out of the Sayonara hatch is like being launched from a cannon into an ice-cold sky. He tumbles in an uncontrolled plummet. He has no experience or skill at skydiving. He's just happy he remembers to pull the ripcord to open the chute. At last, Argent lands, shivering in a patch of snow on the hillside, and tumbles to a stop. Devon arrives a few moments later, 20 yards away, perfectly controlled and landing on his feet. He disconnects from his parachute and comes over to help Argent release himself from this. Well, that was exhilarating, Devon says. Yeah, right, says Argent, a little too riled to be respectful. Almost dying is always fun. Devon chuckles. So, what now? Argent asks. I have friends in China. I've already alerted them. They'll zero in on our beacon. We won't have to wait here long. Argent suspects Devon has friends everywhere, except for maybe Southeast Asia. Then Devon pulls something out of his backpack, the only object he salvaged from the plane, and hands it to Argent. It's a biological stasis cooler about the size of a lunchbox. "What's inside?" Argent asks. Devon sighs. "The only part of Malik I didn't sell. His best part, actually." Argent doesn't dare open it. He knows what it is. "And it's for me?" Argent asks, scarcely willing to believe it. "It's an elegant solution, don't you think?" Devon says. "It fulfills my promise to you and allows me to see my nephew's handsome face once more, without having to suffer the rest of him." Argent holds the box closely. He feels awful. He feels grateful. He feels damned. He feels blessed. How could something generate so many conflicting emotions? He decides to go with the positive ones, because the negative ones will surely drive him mad. "Thank you," he says. "I do believe Malik is better off living divided," Devon says. "It's certainly better than the life path he was on." He tells Argent that he'll arrange a private procedure to graft his new face on once they arrive in Beijing. "And then you're free, Argent. I will have you taken to wherever you want to go." Argent looks at Devon, holding eye contact, something he never before had the courage to do. "What if I don't want to go? What if I want to keep working for you?" "Well then, I'll pay you a wage worthy of your loyalty." Devon looks up at Lady Lucrezia's vapor trail, slowly being torn apart by crosswinds. When the plane finally goes down, we'll all be taken for dead. I intend you to take advantage of that. Leave my business, retire under an assumed name, of course. I'll always need a valet." They sit down and wait for the arrival of Devon's friends, who will most likely come by helicopter. And as Argent ponders the electrifying prospect of his new future, a question comes to mind. "Where will we go?" he asks. "Where do you want to retire?" "Well," says Devon, "faking one's death does require a level of continued anonymity." He feigns to wonder the question, but clearly he's thought about it before. "Did you know that with all that I possess, I've never owned a yacht? It has been a long-standing dream of mine to own one, and sail the Mediterranean, sticking only to the smaller, less traveled ports, of course." "Sounds like a plan," says Argent, already settling into the idea. "After all, what are the chances of running into someone you know?" The end.